Hey, J-Bo Nation! Shaming of Jay. He's not a dopey dumb bitch. He gets laid. The court jester. The court DJ. It's time to dive into the case. To the case.
Good morning, everyone. We have another example of me not planning on streaming until this afternoon, and then I see there's a Shanna. Is it Shanna or Shanna? Shanna Gardner appearance, and I really want to keep updated on this case. If you are not familiar with this case, it is so similar to the Adelson case. It's quite striking. So let me just see what's going on here. One case has it started already. Law and Crime says 9:30. So hold on. Let me get this set up.
I represent Mr. Fernandez along with my law partner, Mr. Hill, who is present.
Good morning, Your Honor. Patrick Cody for Ms. Gardner, and Mr. Baez is present on Zoom.
All right, thank you. Mr. Baez, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Good morning.
good morning. All right, so I passed this to get a status on the defense position.
Sure.
On the motion that was filed by Mr. Fernandez.
So on Tuesday of next week, we have our first deposition of the Secret Service agent who has coordinated a lot of this discovery that is sort of in dispute. And we have another deposition scheduled. The defense's position, knowing that the court and everyone would like to quit.
Just an FYI, this is only coming out of one speaker.
Turnaround on this was to come back the week of the 22nd to tell you that we're ready for you to assign us a neutral, an independent magistrate of some sort. I hesitate to say, well, let's just do it the week of the 22nd because there, a deposition could be canceled. We may learn that there's more discovery. As the court knows, there are so many issues that come up and may come up. And one we already are experiencing, which is we're having trouble accessing what the Secret Service has sent us, and our expert has been provided it, and he's working on unzipping that file, and we're working as fast as possible to get this to a point where the court can hear it. And
Did any depots occur in the month of January? Because I thought you all were going to schedule the depots this entire month, and that's why I brought you back in February.
no, ma'am, the first depot is on Tuesday.
Does the defense seek to depose anyone locally, or was it a TUI issue with getting the federal agents to comply?
We did have to send TUI letters.
Okay.
There's a lot of lawyers, there's a lot of calendaring and schedule issues. The state gave us dates. They were very aggressive on making sure that they gave us time. The defense went through our calendars. I mean, I know that the court would have probably liked the depositions to be concluded, but I don't believe it's a lack of our effort. I can tell you that.
Okay. So on February 13th, you have one Secret Service agent scheduled.
Yeah, and then another agent who is has knowledge of this particular issue is scheduled.
And another agent. I thought you were also going to take depots of, who's the company, this team?
On next week, on the 13th.
Is two
And I
witnesses, I'm sorry.
provided their TUI letters. There's no TUI issue. These witnesses are absolutely willing to come. Secret Service agent, ATF research analyst, and I have made names and addresses for next point personnel and expert witness available to defense.
When the state says that there's no TUI issue, the court asked did we have to provide TUI letters?
Right.
And yes, we did. Ms. Stifler sent us an email saying, you need to provide TUI letters. We had to draft, prepare TUI letters, get them to the state, and I made no indication that they weren't willing to come, but there was steps that had to be taken in order to get them to come.
I understand.
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out what the process was, and then the next point person, that's also gonna be done, or that's a different day?
It's actually someone from the Secret Service and someone from ATF, and they're both on the 13th.
Okay.
We can add, I mean, I've given them no dates. These witnesses are all on standby at any point. They want to schedule a depot. We're willing to do that.
That's good to know.
Next week, so.
And is Ms. Gardner participating in these depositions?
We are, Your Honor.
And through the month of January, we were still being provided documents as to this very issue. And I think the court should know that as well.
Okay. So, just bottom line, you think that you would have some type of position the 22nd?
I'm hopeful, yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, let me, talk to you, Mr. Cody and Mr. Bias. Where does it stand with Ms. Gardner?
Your Honor, we're in a similar posture with respect to the motion to disqualify the state. We did file this week a bond motion, which we would like the court to hear. We spoke to the state about dates. We did propose the 27th and 28th of February. The state indicated that that was not agreeable to them. The state indicated they would like to resolve the disqualification issue before any bond motion was heard. Our position is that we need to hear the bond motion, that is separate and distinct from the motion to disqualify the state. And we'd ask the court to set a date for the bond motion so we can be heard on that motion and establish whether or not Ms. Gardner is entitled to a bond. We have now reviewed the majority of the evidence, or what we think we need to review to be in a position to file this motion. We do not believe that the state can meet the very high burden that's required to deny a bond for Ms. Gardner. And so our position, again, Judge, is we would like to have that motion heard.
And so you want the bond motion heard prior to the disqualification. Do you have any authority on that?
Judge,
Has this ever been?
I don't, and I did not know it was going to be an issue until this morning in speaking with the state, frankly, that would be their position. But I can research that if the court wants that researched.
I do.
Yes, Judge.
I think it's important. If you are alleging that the state has information or has done something inappropriate to warrant an extreme remedy to get rid of their entire office, I think that I'm interested to see if that's ever been litigated before.
Yes, Judge, I just make 2 points. The first is that it's not Ms. Gardner's fault that there was this whole next point issue, right? And she's been now held since August, and we had to do our due diligence before filing this motion so that we knew that it would be an appropriate motion to file before the court. So that's the first point. And the second point I would make to the court, that if the court finds that she is entitled to a bond, even with this evidence that they may not have it may not have been right that they had access to, then that bond would still stand and be appropriate. If the court found against us on the bond motion, but then disqualified the state, we would probably, reviewing again the case, find that it would be appropriate for us to refile the motion before a new state attorney and get their position on it, because the bond motion would have been completed with access to evidence they shouldn't have. My point is, Judge, either way, if the motion is heard before the disqualification issue is resolved, there is zero prejudice to the state.
Is there any thought by you that they would try to seek to present evidence that you're claiming that they didn't have access to in that hearing?
Judge, I don't believe.
That's what I'm trying
Yes,
to avoid.
yes, Judge, I don't believe so.
Okay. What's the state's position?
The state's position is that it would greatly prejudice the state of Florida, not necessarily myself or my office, that if they're going to have a bond hearing, the state of Florida is going to respond in kind with a motion for pretrial detention, both under the statute and under the Florida Constitution and State v. Arthur. We're going to attach evidence to our response. We're going to call witnesses. We're going to present evidence to the court to prove her guilt by proof evidence presumption grade. If we do not have a disqualification motion prior to that, and in the event that the court does disqualify the Fourth Judicial Circuit from the case after denying bond, they can renew that motion with the state of Florida and another prosecutor's office, which would then have to relitigate the issue, which is a burden on the state of Florida. It's a waste of judicial resources, and it greatly prejudices the state. My position is, and my position has been, the state of Florida has not accessed or has not used, read, or otherwise plans to use any information which is privileged. That's our position. That's what the hearing on disqualification is for. I believe we'll be successful in the disqualification motion, but I do believe that it would be greatly prejudicial to the state of Florida and the prosecution, whether it's our circuit or another, to have this bond hearing in the event that they can argue a substantial change in circumstance and relitigate an entire bond motion in the future. I'm asking this court to set the hearing on disqualification in February after defense has done their depositions, after we've had the independent administrator review a document that Mr. Fernandez's counsel and I dispute is privileged. There is no such dispute as to Ms. Gardner. Their motion is limited to the state of Florida potentially had access at some point to privileged communications which were never viewed or reviewed by anyone in law enforcement or the state. I want to have that hearing before this bond motion. Also, the state's going to file a written response. I'd like to do that sometime next week, give them notice as to what evidence we're going to present, what witnesses we're going to call. I'm not asking for a great delay. I think on the track that we're on, given any unforeseen delays, if the state of Florida, having provided all this information to defense, assisted them with their subpoena ducas tecums and their TUI letters, making these witnesses available, I'm hopeful we can have this hearing on disqualification late February, early March, and I would ask to set the bond hearing mid or end of March. Ms. Gardner has been in custody since September. She did not waive extradition, so she was held longer in the state of Washington until she got here. She's entitled to her hearing on their motion. I agree with that, but I don't think she's prejudiced in any way in a delay of 1 month. They filed their motion this week. The state of Florida should have the opportunity to file motions in response and prepare for the hearing. The state of Florida also should not be prejudiced by having a disqualification motion hanging over our heads with statements by counsel that if the court denies bond, they're going to refile it and grant the disqualification motion. I think it makes the most sense, too.
I thought you all told me, and I'm speaking to Mr. Correa, Mr. Bias, that you all were reserving the right to amend the motion of disqualification based on any discovery that you all were conducting in the interim. Last time I saw y'all, we were in December, we're now in February. You indicated that whatever the cloud, what's it called?
Next point.
This, right, next point. This was shut down for you all. You all were going to conduct the discovery, and you were going to amend potentially the motion that you were adopting based on what Mr. Fernandez, am I understanding that correctly?
Judge, that is correct. We are still struggling, as is Mr. Fernandez's defense, in opening the information that we received from the Secret Service. So that's one hurdle that we're facing. The second thing is that we need those depositions completed to see how we're going to proceed with regard to this issue.
Okay. Well, to me, just practically speaking, to avoid any, if you all, in a hearing like this, not necessarily that they have to put on everything, they have to put on a substantial amount to meet the burden that you alleged in your motion. It's, practically speaking, to avoid any discovery violations, or you're saying you didn't have it, they obviously can access it, you're saying you're having trouble with it. I'm just
one clarification. What they're talking about, I do not have access to. That's the whole point of the state's position. They received the unredacted versions of the phone downloads. The state of Florida does not have possession of any of these. They got them directly from Secret Service. So I just want to be clear about that. Mr. Dreisner, I had a miscommunication with him this morning about that myself.
Why does it look like the computer there just has a hashtag on it?
So you don't have access to what they're
No,
saying
ma'am.
that,
That's
okay.
the whole point. They wanted it from the
As-
original paint agent. The state of Florida does not have access to these documents or files. I can't provide them to them or assist them in any way.
To be very clear, they have had access to the very documents and emails and the things that we've alleged in our motion. Let's not be confused about that. What they don't have access to is the unredacted raw data that the Secret Service went through before the Secret Service turned over all of our privileged emails to the state of Florida, which were uploaded to NextPoint. So
Well, that's in dispute.
well, that's not in dispute. There is no
Well, I'm
dispute.
not gonna argue that.
Well, it's not. I mean, the emails that I sent my client sent me were uploaded to NextPoint by the state of Florida. That there's no dispute about. Whether they looked at them or intend on using them may be in dispute, but there is absolutely no dispute as to them being in possession of them. So, and it's a machinery issue. This particular data the Secret Service uses, the agent told us you have to have special software, forensic software, to open it. So we hired an expert who we believe has that. He's working on doing that, and hopefully we can have that done by Tuesday. If not, we may just, at the expense of what I'm told this software costs, we may just have to ask the questions, what did you have, and see if we can do it that way. That's why there's some uncertainty as to how prepared we'll be come late February. But I think through good.
Why not exercise 3.220 where you can have them open it up?
And review it. And during the deposition, we
No, I mean prior to, so that you know what questions you can ask on record.
I
You
think
can inspect outside of the deposition.
sure. If we were talking about inspecting photographs that a medical examiner had taken or something like that, that tool is readily used and available and useful. I suspect we're talking about thousands or hundreds of thousands of documents and images. So the practicality of doing something like that, hey, maybe we just go to your office and sit down with you, it just, in this particular case, I don't know that that's a feasible tool to use.
All right. This is what I'd like to do. I'm gonna bring you all back.
I'm sorry, we do have one other issue separate than
Okay.
that. So Mr. Fernandez, on December 13th, filed a motion to compel contact visitation. We're having some difficulty with our mitigation specialist, Dr. Brooke Butler. She's gone to the jail. We sent over a letter saying she can go to the jail. That worked once, then it didn't work. Then they said that the letter was dated the day before. Then the next time they said she couldn't have contact.
You mean in those rooms just, they're open?
Yeah,
Not through the glass?
Without us being there. I mean, the expense of having a lawyer sit there. She's sometimes there for an entire day or two at a time. So we're asking, and it's never been an issue. I wasn't there the first time we introduced Mr. Fernandez, and then we left her to do her job. So we're asking the court to issue an order just allowing.
I have to give
The city
general counsel notice.
Right. So if we could.
So what I was gonna do, why don't we handle that? You all, I'll bring you back on the 14th. You all let me know how the deposition went. After the 13th, we'll handle, I can give notice to the general counsel related to that issue. Maybe it won't be an issue and they'll just allow it. But I do know that they have,
Stand.
I can't issue an order, okay? They'll just file a motion and,
I've run into that before, so I
right.
addressed
So
that. With
I need to get what Ms. Young's position would be on behalf of JSO. I've had one other issue like that and we just were able to resolve it, talking it through.
Okay.
And there's some type of list. Has she gotten on that?
Yes, ma'am. I think we've done everything we can from our side.
Okay.
So now the plan is to come back on the
I
14th.
don't see that motion you're referring to. Oh, no, I see it. Okay, so I'm not the one on it. All right, we'll have a conversation about that, and you'll let me know how the depositions go. Then hopefully we can schedule a hearing, and if you all would be prepared, both sides, if this has been litigated before, where there's a pending disqualification motion and also a bond motion, that the defense wants to hear. I don't want to resolve it necessarily practically, but there is some guidance out there, I like it. So if you would do some research on that, okay? And I'll see you all back. Are you all available on the 14th?
Yes, ma'am.
I am not, Your Honor. I currently have a trial scheduled on that day.
You do, okay.
That's not the Great Wizard of Oz. That's Jose Baez
But
on Zoom.
What about the next day? I'm sorry?
I can speak with Ms. Gardner and see if she's fine with Mr. Caroni appearing on my behalf.
And I'm available on the 14th, Judge.
You are?
Yes.
It's just, Mr. Bias, if you're not available and Ms. Gardner agrees, if you would just communicate your schedule, it would just be, I wouldn't be having any type of substantive hearing. It would just be to schedule the hearing. I'm not doing anything other than getting an update on the discovery. I do need a position on Ms. Gardner about whether you intend to amend or if you're going to go with what you have, if you believe that you need additional discovery in order to adopt what Mr. Fernandez has filed, so that we're all on notice of what the issues are, okay?
And Judge, I do believe we adopted their motion. We just indicated that we may supplement it.
That's what I mean.
Yes, Judge.
I need to know, from your perspective what the information is, what your objections are, so that we all, when we have a hearing, it's a full hearing and, decisions can be made. And the state's put on notice about what Ms. Gardner, I believe that they're sufficiently on notice based on the pleadings in Mr. Fernandez's case. I'm not exactly sure. Ms. Stifler is indicating, the position that you all laid out initially. I don't know if that is the full breadth and scope of your objection. Does that make sense?
I think it makes perfect sense, Judge, and I think it's certainly not our intent to sandbag the state at any hearing. So absolutely, I think it's important for them to know the issues as well as the court ahead of time. So that's something we will do happily.
Do you think there are any depots beyond the ones on the 13th?
There may be.
Okay. Well, I'll get your position. I'm going to tentatively set up, the way that we're set up right now, I don't think you can have that conversation with Ms. Gardner about whether Mr. Critty, would you like to speak with her? Just briefly, I'll set it on the 14th if you're...
Yes, Judge. I was able to speak with Ms. Gardner quickly, and she is okay with waiving Mr. Baez's presence at the next court date.
Okay, so that's just going to be scheduling. I'm going to get an update, okay? February 14th, 9 a.m. for pretrial on both cases, okay? See you all then.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can I be excused?
Yes, thank you.
All right, guys. For folks who are not familiar with this case, well, first of all, I apologize. I have to do a better job scheduling cases that I want to follow, so it's not a surprise stream. I should have had this already. My bad. I'll work on that because this is a case I definitely want to follow. Courtney Clenny is a case I definitely want to follow. Obviously, Donna Adelson. I gotta, particularly if they're in Florida, when they are going to be televised. That's Jared's wife. She's leaving. All right, I'll lower this. I don't think we need to hear this. But for folks who are not familiar with this case, it's not your fault, Izzy. You're good. I gotta get a schedule. I gotta figure something out. All right, so for folks who are not familiar with this case, the similarities to the Adelsons are pretty striking. So this gentleman right here was married to, is it Shanna or Shanna? Shanna Gardner, Shanna Gardner? I'm not sure. If someone could tell me. So Shanna Gardner, Shanna Gardner, I think it's Shanna, but I don't know, was married to Jared Bridegan. They get divorced. They have kids. They have a very contentious divorce, super contentious, similar to Dan Markel and Wendy Adelson, 800-page divorce file. Motions, babe just put it in there, 800 pages of motions. So they have this contentious divorce. Jared gets remarried, also has kids with his new wife. And what they do, Shanna and her new husband, they hire a hitman who is a tenant of her new husband. They hire a hitman. He puts a tire in front of, so all right, I'm trying to get this all. I haven't looked at this in a little bit, but I'm pretty familiar with it. Jared goes to visit his kids. They have like a special date night that they do every Wednesday, I think, with his kids with Shanna. He goes there. He takes one of his kids with his new wife. He take because she wants to be involved in the date. He goes to his wives that they have planned every time, and then he's coming home with his one of his daughters in the car. The tenant hitman puts a tire in the road. It's a one-way road. You can't get around the tire if you're driving on this road. He sets up the tire in the road. Jared gets out of the car to move the tire to continue home. At that point, he's assassinated. He's killed by this hitman. His daughter is in her car seat in the back of the car. It's absolutely awful. She talks about the sounds that she heard and her daddy falling down. I mean, it's just, these people are the absolute worst. So they hire, again, so similar. They hire a hitman. I mean, it's a little different in that it was his tenant. It was literally this man's tenant who did it. So now they're both on trial and their cases are severed. Shanna is now represented by Jose Baez, who was not her original attorney, who also repped Casey Anthony. So that's kind of the long and short of it. I mean, that's kind of a quick synopsis. I absolutely want to continue to cover this case. And again, this is Florida. So everything is the good. One nice thing about Florida for sure is they got the sunshine laws or whatever. Everything pretty much is streamed. So we'll be able to watch all the hearings as they go forward. I don't know how they're not going to find these two guilty. Does anyone know? Is this? Oh, and this is a death penalty case, right? Because I remember at another hearing, Jose Baez couldn't do something because he's not death penalty certified or something. I don't know how that works, but I'm fairly certain this is a death penalty case. Yes, okay. Everyone is saying yes. So this is a big one, folks, and I don't see how they're not going to find them guilty. I don't know, the Secret Service. Does anyone know why the Secret Service is involved? That part I'm not familiar with. Why was the Secret Service involved in this? Not former Met not former Met Javi Baez, as Kelly says, and Cub and Tiger. So yeah, I was not planning on doing this. Thanks for being here, everyone. We're going to be back at 12:30 for the Brian Smith case. Hopefully they figured out their audio issues because that was rough yesterday. Dizzy says a witness claims they were pressured to destroy evidence. Interesting. So yeah, I got my butter whipped. I wasn't even planning on being here. I got my butter whipped, and then I see this hearing is coming up, and this is a case we're definitely going to keep. Like I said, this is a case we're definitely going to keep track of. This case, Courtney Clenny, obviously Donna Adelson, Sarah Boone, which is never going to go to trial. Are these all in Florida? Jeez Louise. So I think that's it. Anything else? Babe, am I forgetting anything? I don't think so. They burned my ear hair. Yes, Ricky. Yes, Dan. They burned my ear hair. They did not thread my face. Thank Larry, because that shit hurt. But they did take the They did take the they did burn my ear. Yeah, Donna says Adam Montgomery. Guys, I am not going to cover I can't cover the ad. I mean, I could, but I'm not. I can't do the. Thank you, Donnie. The Adam Montgomery case. I'm not going to follow that. I know there are other people who are streaming that. I will not be covering Adam Montgomery. Hey, Chloe and Sally. So thanks for being here, everybody. I appreciate you very much. Sorry I didn't schedule this. We'll be better. I'll if there's upcoming. They said 14th. So babe, no Valentines. Gotta watch this. No Valentines. JK, we'll do something. Donnie got a pedicure. Yes, your day. Hello, Flower Goddess from Miami. Thanks for being here. So we will be back, folks, at 12:30. I'm working on a Wendy Adelson short that'll be coming out. Grandma Gotti is 2:12. It's definitely coming up, MJ. We'll definitely watch that. And maybe this person who keeps is sporadic in their messaging me, we might have an interview on Friday. I'm just waiting to confirm that, but it's been a little difficult. But I don't think they use Twitter that much, and that's how they reached out to me. So hopefully we can figure that out, because I have someone who has so much knowledge about, and I really want this person to come on, and we're possibly doing it Friday, but they said 12 on Friday, and I was like, but I got this trial at 12 on Friday. So, Corey Richards, I do want to cover that one too. I forgot about Corey Richards. I think that's all I got. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks, mods. Sorry, thanks for being here on this quick unplanned stream. We'll definitely plan these out in the future, so we let you know, and we'll see you back here in, if you're not Easter. Oh, Cain Velasquez, MJ. Good point. Does anyone know? I know Dizzy was looking into this, and there's really no we can't figure out if that's going to be streamed. That's soon. Good point, MJ. I know Donnie wants to see Cain Velasquez, and I forgot about that. We just have to figure out if that will be streaming. I will definitely cover that. Thanks, guys. We will be back in 12:30, so that's 2 hours and 30 minutes if you are not on Eastern Standard Time, which Alaska is not. 2 hours and 30 minutes. This will portal you there, so if you could hit the like, get it in the algorithm, greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. See you guys at 12:30. Thanks, guys.